It has emerged government's claim to have rid the public sector payroll of some 26,000 non-existent workers may not be that accurate. This was after some government employees went to their banks to make withdrawals, only to realize their salaries had not reflected. President Akufo-Addo in his Workers' Day address lauded the finance minister for the deletion of thousands of ghost names on the payroll, adding that it will save government hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis. The National Association of Graduate Teachers says thousands of its members at post have been affected by the exercise. The association's president, Christian Adaipoku, says teachers who have been denied their salaries are angry and are hoping government honors its agreement to pay them by April 16.
A lot of teachers have come up complaining that they are post-working. Actually, they have done the net biometric registration and they just don't understand why they should be denied their salary at the end of the month. People are livid about it. We have already sent information out there appealing to them to be calm, because we had already reached an agreement with government that by the 15th of this month all those people should be paid. We know that the government has really inconvenienced people because it is not through any fault of theirs. They have done everything they are supposed to do. They have worked and they have complied with directives to do biometric registration. Unfortunately, they have been denied their pay. It is anticipated that over 13,800 teachers will be affected. A lot of them have started reporting and expressing their disgust and anger about the whole thing, but the numbers are not yet conclusive. As far as I know, the Ministry of Finance has already issued a statement as of last week explaining that they acknowledge there were errors in the system, because NET and Controller have already acknowledged that they made a lot of mistakes, and so they have asked NET to update Controller with the revised records so that all those people will be paid. And that information is already in the system. We have also asked all those who had not done the biometric registration as of last week to do it.
Now, some doctors working in the public sector also say they have been affected by the exercise, even though they are at post and have been working. Dr. Hadi Mohammed Abdullah, a specialist surgeon and senior resident with a neurosurgery unit of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, tells Joy News he had a rude shock when he found out his salary did not reflect in his bank account.
I heard it, some people talking about it, and then I decided to go and see my accountant to find out whether he's got any such name, and he said he would also check. Then I saw the names on social media that some doctors who were affected managed to get a list from the finance section of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital that these are the names coming from the controller, and we were supposed to get our ID cards, that's the biometric card, and then go to the Senate's office and then go and sort it out. And for me, that's worrying. What it means is that there are so many people who have been affected who are unaware. For me, it was a rude shock and very sad, because it happened on the very day that I was running a duty on a holiday, and about 4 of my team members, I mean a team made up of 6 people, if you have about 4 of them affected by the same mode. I mean, it's not because those people did not register. They had registered, they've been verified biometrically, their salaries have been coming. Someone working with the state or a state agency, inevitably, or I don't know what happened, in error, put just half of their SNP numbers there.
Now, the Ghana Medical Association, to which Dr. Hadi and his colleagues belong, is convinced the financial audit affected not just ghost workers, but some living workers as well. GMA General Secretary Dr. Justice Yang Singh says he has received reports from more than 200 doctors at Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Kumasi who are also affected.
Kolebu, for example, they have actually even come up with a list of those who have been affected. And there are some I know personally. But not that time. I know all of them personally, especially with regard to the doctor. And these are people who are hardworking, who are always around, like my good friend Abdullah is saying in the studio. So it's unfortunate. What I think should have been done is that if you want to go on this tangent, you inform the institutions properly that, look, we are giving you this period, and that if this doesn't happen, maybe this will be the first step. Then there's a second step. Because this whole exercise started as a private activity by an entity called SNEC, not government of Ghana. They decided to do their biometric registration and all that. So if suddenly you want to transpose that to become a national agenda, I think that it is just fair that you give people the room, the opportunity to amend where there are issues. I think that this should have been staggered, and then when the whole exercise is completed, then we can say that, okay, this number are ghost names. But once you haven't finished with the exercise, and then you come out and say that 26,000 are ghost names, I don't think at that particular point we have reached that level.
Now, Joy News is learning the Civil and Local Government Workers Association also says some of its members have been affected. Its executives say they are meeting with Employment and Labour Relations Minister over the issue. We hope to bring you an update a lot later. Elsewhere, residents living around the Yam Market at Agbogloshi here in Accra have agreed to form a neighborhood watchdog committee involving all the tribes in the community to ensure lasting peace to the area. The meeting to broker the peace accord signed on Wednesday comes after at least 2 people were killed in the latest in a series of bloody clashes there. The meeting brought together tribal leaders, chiefs, opinion leaders, an NGO and the police. Maxwell Agbagba has more on this report.
It is Breck's business here at the Yam Market, specifically here in Agbogloshi. Businesswomen here are going about their normal duties. Some weeks ago, that wasn't the case. Violence erupted here, resulting in the death of 2 people. The police is leaving no stone unturned to ensure that the relative calm that has been enjoyed by residents here is sustained.
And our message is simple. From the IGP, he warned a neighborhood committee be formed at Agbogloshi. And the neighborhood watch committee should comprise of all the ethnic groups, the 16 ethnic group or thereabout. These the major ones. 2, the associations like the Yam Association, the Scrap Association, the Union Association, and other youth groups also should be part of it. And the police will give you an officer. Jamestown is prepared to give a police officer not below the rank of an inspector to be the liaison officer, between the neighborhood watch and the police. And we are committed to this.
So I think they have gone to sit down, and now what they are recommending, the committee watchdog, is indeed the best way to go. And as leaders, we will try as much as possible to make it work so that we can have a lasting solution, lasting peace in the area. So I think that this is one of the brilliant ideas.
Yes, very, very nicely. And it will help us a lot. If that will happen, I think it will help us a lot.
How long have you been staying here?
Oh, about 20 years.
So tell me, what do you think is the real problem here? What do you think is causing, the fights?
Here, particular, we are different tribes together. So anytime, and where people are plenty, at times it will be problems, different altogether.
I can see the whole place. There are different people altogether, and they are all business people. Majority, they are farmers and a whole lot. And sometimes misunderstanding comes. The people to solve their problem for them is one of the big problems.
You're watching Join Us Round. We're taking a break, but still to come in the bulletin, relatives of restaurant employee whose face was allegedly shoved into blended pepper faces off with her employer over claims he's to express himself in fluent English.
Visibly on.
And some traders at Accra's Central Business District take the law into their own hands to avoid indiscriminate littering, disposal of refuse, at least where they trade. We'll have those stories and more coming up. Stay tuned. Now, proceedings in the case of the Moako restaurant manager accused of shoving the face of his employee into blended pepper took an interesting turn on Wednesday when the accused lawyer claimed his client would require the services of an interpreter before he could open his defense. This was just about when the 26-year-old Jihad Chaban was expected to open his defense. The court was adjourned as a result, sparking outrage amongst relatives of the caterer who got into an open confrontation with Mr. Chaban's family right there on the court premises after the proceedings. Joseph Akable was in court for Joy News.
A visibly unhappy Evelyn Boache and her family reacting to the decision by the court to adjourn while the services of an Arabic interpreter is secured to assist Jihad Chaban. The 26-year-old was expected to open his defense following the court's dismissal of his lawyer's submission of no case. Lead counsel Julio de Medeiros told the court his client is disputing some of the information contained in a statement taken by the police when he was arrested, suggesting this could be due to misrepresentation of what he told the police upon his arrest because of his limited comprehension of the English language. To avert a recurrence, an interpreter, he stated, will be key. Magistrate Victoria Ganza said the court will formally request from the Judicial Service an Arabic interpreter to assist Jihad open his defense. A brother of the caterer, Kobiofori, told Joy News they found the claim that the accused cannot speak English very strange as they know him as someone who communicates in the language. Lawyer de Medeiros, however, disagrees. He rejected claims the move was aimed at delaying the court.
Said that our client doesn't speak fluent English. He cannot communicate in fluent English. This is a court of record. Every word that he says would have some kind of legal meaning. And if he is very comfortable speaking in Arabic, I think that the justice of the matter just demands that all the tools that he requires to be able to make his case should be available to him. One of the tools is having an interpreter, and we don't see anything wrong with requesting that he has an interpreter who speaks Arabic and which he would be very fluent in.
Hearing continues on Wednesday, May 10.
The 5 Chinese and their 5 Ghanaian counterparts who were arrested and kept in prison custody on March 24, 2017 have been granted bail by Second High Court in the Western Region. The court, presided over by Justice Edward Amoako Asante, granted the accused persons bail when their lead counsel Stephen Alewaba pleaded with the court to have them bailed on grounds of health for 3 of the Chinese nationals who had been sick in custody.
The 5 Ghanaians were granted bail to a sum of 100,000 Ghana cedis each, with one surety, whilst the Chinese were granted a self-recognizance bail. Passports of the 5 Chinese as well as other traveling documents were to be seized and their photograph and fingerprints taken. They are to reappear for the 5th time in court on Monday, May 15, 2017. The 3rd appearance in court had Senior State Attorney George Saki opening his defense by cross-examining 2 police detectives, Detective Inspector Musa Seidu, who is the lead photographer who captured the moments when the arrest was made, and Detective Justice Benzel. Photographs of the arrest were tendered in as evidence by Detective Inspector Musa Seidu. Counsel for the accused, lawyer Stephen Alewaba and lawyer Erickson Abeka, interrogated the images, but the case had to be adjourned when 2 other witnesses to give evidence on behalf of the state were absent in court. Before the adjournment, lead counsel Stephen Alewaba pleaded with the court to reconsider their bail application. Senior State Attorney George Saki objected the application on the grounds that witnesses in the case had all not been heard and that their bail could compromise the evidence the state is gathering. Justice Edward Amoako Asante granted the bail application when counsel Alewaba pleaded the court to consider the human rights provisions enshrined in the Constitution and the health state of 3 of the Chinese nationals. Justice Edward Amoako also asked State Attorney George Saki to ensure the other 2 witnesses are in court on May 15 when the case is recalled. Counsel for the accused, lawyer Erickson Abeka, has been speaking to Joy News after Wednesday's proceedings.
To ensure that they don't run away. They are taking their pictures and their thumbnails. The locals, going to be on 100,000 Ghana cedis. One short per day. The judge had to grant the bail because the fact that the prosecutors could have brought all the witnesses. Two of them came. And the next again they put others, but there are other professionals who require time before they can come for the prosecution. So naturally, when people are incarcerated, we are very sad. But once they come out, we are all happy. They should also come and breathe the fresh air around us.
So 3 of your clients were sick.
Some concerned citizens in the Talented district of the Upper East region say they have had enough of deaths resulting from mine accidents in the area and want the Chinese Mine Support Service Company, which they accuse of causing the deaths, expelled from the area. At a news conference at Shiaga Tuesday, they called on government to seriously scrutinize documents Shanxi Mining is using as legal backing to operate because they are unsure of their credibility. Upper East correspondent Albert Sori was there in our reports.
3 weeks ago, 7 men said to be illegal miners died in a mine accident linked to an underground blast by the Chinese Mine Support Service firm. In separate interviews with Joy News, local miners blamed the Shanxi Mining Company for the accident, but the company denied responsibility. It wasn't the first time such a fatal accident had occurred, and the company has been accused on several occasions. The residents say they have had enough and want the company out. Charles Boazo addressed a press conference on behalf of the concerned Talented citizens.
The state authorities, they don't want the Ghanaian authorities to know the actual truth of what they are doing over there. Else, the state authorities would have gotten them out of this place a long time. It is the reason why we are here. In fact, the Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has written them a letter suspending their operation because of the recent death they have caused. As we talk right now, we have a corpse to bury. They can't deny it. They are always denying. Anytime we cry, anytime we have dead bodies to bury, which we know they are behind it, they will deny.
Last week, Joy News was presented with copies of documents indicating that 2 Ghanaian concessionaires, Yednyaya and Pubotaba mining groups, acquired licenses to operate as small-scale miners at Gbani. Each concessionaire was given 25 acres of land within which to operate. Owner of the Yednyaya mining group, Charles Ndambun, told Joy News he, together with his other counterpart at Pubotaba Mining Group, brought in the Chinese Mine Support Service firm to provide technical support services to them. The Talented citizens are, however, challenging the credibility of the company's documents.
We had them 2009, that they signed agreement with us to give a technical support service. And I think from 2009 up to date, they have been given a technical support service. And our operation here is mainly for underground. We don't destroy surface because if you see a machine that is moving along this area, that means that we want to clear a place, either construction, or we want to clear it for maybe piling our ore. We don't destroy the land because our operation is underground.
The Shanxi Mining Company tells Joy News it will soon respond to the claims made by the Talented citizens at the press conference. But there are growing fears that if government does not intervene, the standoff could result in a clash. Reporting for Joy News, Albert Sori, Bolgatanga.
Meanwhile, Catholic priests in areas affected by illegal mining in the central region have launched what they call Operation Touch Heaven with Prayers to end galamsey. Speaking at a news conference at Jukwa in the central region, the Catholic priests called on the religious bodies in the country whose members are engaged in galamsey to call them to order. According to the priests, the fight against galamsey cannot be sustained if the media spearheading the fight are not fortified with prayers. Richard Kodonyako has more.
The Catholic priests By traditional authorities in the area, led by the priest in charge of the Immaculate Heart of Mary Grotto, want churches and other religious bodies in the country to go beyond just throwing a challenge to government to fight the Galamsey menace, but also activate series of intercessory prayers to support the media that is at the forefront of the crusade. Beyond the prayers, the priests want these religious bodies to talk about Galamsey and its impact to their members who are in the Galamsey business in order to end the practice. Speaking at the launch of the Operation Touch Heaven with prayers to end Galamsey, spokesperson of the priest and the priest in charge of the Immaculate Heart of Grotto, Reverend Father David Painter, tells Joy News the current battle against Galamsey cannot be won if the media is left to use only their might to do it.
Today, we are launching a spiritual crusade on Galamsey. A spiritual crusade I have dubbed Operation Touch Heaven with prayers to end Galamsey. We know very well that the government and the media have taken the initiative to end this menace. But we are also much aware that the whole issue is very complex. We need divine intervention. We need help from above. Our brothers, sisters of the Christian denomination and also the Islamic denomination. We should rally together and then fight this menace of Galamsey. And we're doing that through prayer. We're going to support the government with prayer. We're going to support the media with prayer.
Now, severe blood loss, unsafe abortion and hypertension are said to be the leading causes of maternal death in Ghana. The incidence have meanwhile increased in 2016 as compared to the year before. Health practitioners at a review meeting to assess the performance of all health sectors are therefore putting in place measures to reduce the number of mothers who die during childbirth. Patricia Gasso has more.
Health experts are blaming the lack of skilled medical care during childbirth for the rise in maternal mortality cases in the country. After-birth bleeding is also said to be a common reason many mothers lose their lives. Health professionals say ending maternal mortality is a priority that needs urgent attention.
Maternal mortality ratio was high in 2016. This is because when you look at the absolute figures, even though the absolute figures have dropped from 208 in the previous year, 2015, to 197. When we calculate the ratio, because we always relate the maternal mortality to the number of deliveries, when we calculate it with the ratio of the number of deliveries, then we realize that the number of women who have come to deliver who lost their life had increased. So the ratio is currently 180 per 1,000 live birth for institutional delivery, compared to 2015, where it was 177 per 1,000 live births. So the situation has partially worsened.
At a performance review of the health sector, practitioners indicated they are putting in place strategies that will help achieve high survival of both mothers and their babies. But the healthcare professionals say they are challenged in a number of ways.
Apart from the community, when you come back to the facilities themselves, we don't seem to have the emergency drug. There are always one problem or the other. Sometimes we don't have adequate staffs, the experts, the specialists that we need, the doctors that we need to be by the bedside of the patient may not be available. We may not have adequate midwives. Sometimes our facilities are too small. So when the patients come, maybe you take 1 or 2 patients, you don't have space to take more. But most times we are full. And so when they want to bring high-risk cases that we think that should be the ones who come to us, we are unable to receive them. So it's a whole system-wide challenge that we have. And so to be able to address this, we need to really look at the system. What systems can we put in place to make sure that mothers, once they get pregnant, they go to the hospital to have their blood pressures checked. And once they're in the hospital, if they need emergency drugs, the drugs are available. And then what also can we do to make sure that the doctors are available, the midwives are available in adequate numbers to look after these patients.
To support effort to save mothers, Dr. Sroponyo is appealing to Ghanaians to donate blood.
I can never overstress this, the need, because unlike other medications where we can just go and buy and stock in the pharmacy to use to treat the women, as for blood, scientists have not been able to manufacture blood, and so the only source of blood is when another human being donates the blood to be used to save the life of another person. There is no other source. And so unless we Ghanaians come forward, if we want our own sisters, our mothers to stop dying as a result of hemorrhage, then we as Ghanaians have to come forward and donate blood so that it will be used to save the life of the others.
Right, still to come in the bulletin, commuters using the motorway roundabouts on their way home from work Tuesday had to endure the hellish experience involving up to 6 hours in traffic due to roadworks there.
The Akosombo Road, which normally has heavy traffic, was blocked by unruly motorists.
The minority in Parliament is blaming the majority for the stalemate in the passage of the Right to Information Bill. According to its leader Haruna Idrisu, but for the last-minute opposition put up by the New Patriotic Party, the NDC would have passed the bill before the 6th Parliament ended last January. The bill, which would improve access to information for journalists and the citizenry, has spent 10 years in the process of passage. With the new Parliament coming into force, the whole process would have to start afresh. Mr. Idrisu was speaking at an event on Wednesday to mark International Press Freedom Day here in Accra.
This year, the world is marking Press Freedom Day on the theme Critical Minds for Critical Times, Media's Role in Advancing Peaceful, Just and Inclusive Societies. In Ghana, focus was on getting answers on why Parliament has failed to pass the Right to Information Bill.
The absence of a right to information law inhibits our ability to challenge our rulers, to ask for details. It has taken so long for the media to wake up to what is happening in our countryside, that our rivers are dying, because it takes too long to ask the questions and find the answers.
The bill has been in the process of passage for a decade, going back and forth between two of Ghana's leading parties in the lawmaking house.
And I'll urge you, President of GJ and your colleagues, to read the parliamentary Hansard of the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th January of Parliament before the swearing in of the new government. The Honorable Dua Jaho, when he took his chair as Speaker of Parliament, then moved to what he called the final consideration stage of the Freedom of Information Bill. That was to give a terminal end to the process of completing it for us to await presidential assent. We say it as it is. At the time, I'm sure the minority then had become the majority. So they said, no, we won't cooperate with you. Why all this while you didn't pass the Freedom of Information Bill? We will frustrate you. So it became the politics of legacy. Whose legacy it will be to get a Freedom of Information Bill. Ghana is above that petty partisan politics.
But the majority, which until last January was the minority, now says it is committed to pushing the bill through, according to its deputy leader, Sarah Adjoasafu.
As we push for this passage of this bill to be promulgated, I believe that the hard-earned reputation of people should not be compromised. Because if you look in Article 162 downwards, 163, 164, it also talks about the responsibility of the media.
Ghana is 26th on the list of countries with free space for the press, better than relatively advanced countries like France and the United Kingdom. But that freedom has yet to show on the work of the media.
One fundamental thing that Ghanaians probably doesn't know is that the risk that involved in our work is very tedious, and then politicians delving into journalism practice, trying to use legal issues to stampede our work. As a journalist, when you are investigating or trying to unearth an issue, they use the caveat of defamation to more or less, cut your wings of what you want to do.
I think it's time the media, the public have access to information for accountability, as the coalition member, Mina Mensah, said. I think it will be good for our democracy as citizens and as media people.
But for media academic Dr. Audrey Gajepo, passing a right to information bill is only the first step to solving a bigger problem.
The bill that was supposed to be passed, there were still concerns about some of the provisions in that bill that would undermine the strength of the bill, especially in some of the exemptions. And it will be very important to take this second opportunity for Parliament to quickly reconsider some of those issues in order to pass a stronger bill. If we've had to wait another year, then it must be an improved bill that that we get in the end. The readiness then, after the bill is paid, to implement the bill so that it makes it meaningful to ordinary citizens and the media. And what I mean by that is that what is the readiness of our ministries, departments, agencies, state entities, so that when I walk in the door and ask for a particular piece of public information, they have it.
As the flags are raised, journalists at today's occasion of Press Freedom Day would mark time, hoping the politicians would keep to their promise.
Now, Tuesday night was a hellish experience for commuters who used the runabout at the Tema end of the motorway. Some of the commuters say they spent, in some cases, about 6 hours for a journey they would usually complete in 15 minutes. The congestion has been blamed on a project to expand access to the motorway to allow free flow of traffic. Journalist Latif Idris has been speaking with one commercial driver who says the traffic situation was extremely terrible last night.
How was it like yesterday?
Oh, Andrade, no more than no traffic in the buta, but
what would you say caused the traffic yesterday?
Oh, Andrade, more than 5 hours.
5 hours?
Serious, because I'm my instruments. 5 hours, I'm not to it's Andrade, no more than.
Who could do baby? I'll call no better.
Oh, midway, my load, Nicola, and a pair of Muyamami. Oh, Nadia, Nadia.
Right, so he essentially says that he has to endure the traffic for about 5 hours last night, and as a result he couldn't actually offload the cement he was carrying, and that was only offloaded for him just this morning. Now, the resident engineer undertaking the expansion works on the Accra motorway says they will work around the clock to complete the ongoing construction to prevent the traffic congestion on that road. Engineer Kwabna Bimpong has been explaining why the contractor works during the day, even though it inconveniences motorists using the road.
As you can see, it's past 6:30 and they are still working. They want to complete this as quickly as possible. As I speak to you, the excavation is complete. We are doing filling works, and close by the end of the week, we would have gone very far to complete this section of the road, and then we'll open to traffic. So there are plans to work around the clock, and we are working 7 days in a week. We are working 7 days in a week in order to complete this project on time.
You are going to work around the clock 7 days a week. Wouldn't that affect the quality of work that you come out with in the long run?
No, we have our men on the ground who are monitoring.
I'm sure when you started you had a timeline.
Yes.
And that you are going to move according to that.
Yes.
And now, because of the inconveniences, you are forced to work around the clock. And question again, wouldn't that affect the quality of work?
We are professionals, and as professionals, we are working to a specific code and also specifications. The specifications, if the specifications requires that tests be done, we'll have to do it, and the test must pass before we move on to another layer of the works. Yes, we may be late. However, we are not going to sacrifice quality and safety for production.
I ask you this question because on the Kwame interchange, we having potholes developing on a section of it already.
Yeah.
And that is worrying, wouldn't you say?
Well, I haven't seen it myself. I've heard. I don't know what was done because it could be an overlay. If it's an overlay, that is possible. I doubt it is on the interchange proper. It could. I guess it's the. Anyway, I have not seen it, so I cannot talk about it.
It all boils down to quality. I mean,
it all boils down to quality. But then you can be sure that here we are ensuring that the contractor works within the specification. And our specification requires, this is a very stringent specification. We have, materials engineers, we have geodetic engineers, all trying to ensure that we are working to our specification.
Right, joining us is Latif Idris, joins us live from the area with an update of the traffic situation. Hello, Latif. Now, we've heard the commercial driver say the traffic situation is not that bad tonight, but what have you observed?
Yeah, Israel, that was exactly the point. What we are witnessing today is in sharp contrast of reports that we had today about the fact that the place was congested and drivers couldn't move for 5 hours. Today, on the streets, it's free flow traffic, no congestion, and some of the drivers we spoke to have been sharing their experiences with us. They told us that yesterday's congestion is something they've never witnessed on the motorway. But as we speak, Israel, the expansion work is ongoing and the cameraman will pan slowly so you get to see the section of the Tema motorway that has been blocked for the expansion project to take place. So in short, you have some of the machines at site right now, and that was exactly the point made by the resident engineer. When I spoke with him, he told us that they are going to work around the clock to ensure that the work is completed within the designated period for motorists to get access to use it. Now, this section has been blocked, and so drivers going to the Tema section are now using the road leading to the Tema Harbour, and that is the alternative route that has been created by the engineers who are working on this road, and in order to make for easy traffic situation here on the motorway. And I spoke earlier with the police who are also here trying to ensure that the traffic situation is put in the right perspective. And he told me, one of them, that yesterday as late as 1 a.m. They were still outside trying to control traffic. That tells you how serious and congested the place was yesterday, Israel.
All right, so Latif, what are they saying they have done differently today that's eased the traffic situation?
Yeah, according to the site engineer, when I spoke with him, he told me that most of the drivers yesterday were not obeying traffic regulation, and it largely had to do with the fact that there were no much, police personnel on the ground to ensure that they go by the rules. So today, what they did was to, come together with MTTU to ensure that they deployed enough men on the ground to ensure that drivers using this section of the motorway comply with the traffic regulation. That is one. Secondly, he was also speculating that it could also be that most of the motorists who encountered the congestion yesterday had avoided this section. So today, they are now using other alternative routes instead of this section, reason why we are experiencing no traffic congestion on the motorway today, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Latif Idris. And you can see some drone shots right now, and you can see that it is evident that the traffic or the vehicles are moving quite freely. It's not as terrible as yesterday, where people said they had to stay in traffic for about 6 hours for a journey they could have completed in about 15 minutes. And we hope that the engineers and the police will continue to work together so that the congestion around that area would ease until the road is completed. Now, moving on to other stories, a concerned youth group in the Keta municipality of the Volta region has registered its displeasure over the nomination of one Seth Yomowu by President Akufo-Addo as chief executive for the municipality. According to the group, Mr. Yomowu is incompetent to occupy the office and has been insubordinate to traditional authorities and therefore does not have the support of the grassroots in the municipality. Speaking at a news conference at Keta, convener Philip Bokoga called on the president to revoke Mr. Yomowu's nomination, alleging that he sides with a group that attempted to sabotage the installation of the Awomafia Togwisfi III in 2007 and till date undermines his reign. Fred Kwame Asari's report.
Philip Bokoda accused the governing NPP in the Volta region of failing to consult the grassroots when compiling names for Metropolitan Municipal District Chief Executives. He emphasized the youth group would intensify its protest against Mr. Yomowu's nomination, labeling him as incompetent and divisive, adding security in the Anglong traditional area would be jeopardized under his watch.
Interest President of the Republic of Ghana to change the nominee, we're going to see him through approval and later start going through the current of imposing curfews when this peaceful municipality of ours begins to witness series of unrest. Mr. Seth Yamabu does not deserve to lead this municipality in any capacity because of his association with people with ill motive and who, over the years, have been known to be nothing but anarchists. As we speak, intelligence available to us indicate that Mr. Seth Yamabu is being covertly pushed to become MC by some group of people who have been clamoring for the replacement of Toby Street III of Accra State. People who would not hesitate to use him as far to further their parochial interests. We are not perturbed at all. We will go the extra mile. I repeat again. We will go the extra mile. Yeah. We will go the extra mile. Yeah. To see that he is not made our MC on any day.
The group also bemoaned actions by the Royal Ajovia Stool Council, calling for a committee to be set up to investigate the unlawful installation of Togbi Sri III, and presented a letter written by the council, copied to the Presidency, Office of the Vice President, Speaker of Parliament, Togbi Sri III, ex-President Jerry John Rawlings, and other related government agencies. The same group had, prior to the announcement of the MMDC's nomination, called a news conference to declare support for Dr. Benjamin Jamisi and projected him among 3 names shortlisted for the MCE job. Of the 24 MMDCs nominated in the Volta region, there's been agitation against 2 of them, Seth Yomewu and his colleague from South Dai District, Ella Boateng. Fred Kwame Asari's report for Joy News.
Now, sanitation in most of Accra's markets remains a nagging problem. Despite the numerous pledges by the authorities to get rid of the filth, it refuses to go away. Frustrated with the situation, some traders have decided to take the law into their own hands and to stop indiscriminate dumping, at least near their trading places, mainly because they say it's bad for business. Join us, Zarina Mandi has more.
Though sanitation has become a fundamental area of focus for the AMA, the problem at the Makola market in Accra's central business district seems to be assuming alarming proportion. Rubbish from the market and other parts of the city are dumped here on the bare floor. But how did this come to be? Carl Mensah is the secretary of the market.
Formerly, there was a beam at the on the roadside where we used to dump the garbage. So after which the Zoom Lion or whoever is supposed to come for it will come for it. But there are times they delay. And this time around too, we don't normally see the container, the rubbish container in which formerly they were putting it inside. See, the schools there, the electricity and the rest, all those people, when their rubbish is being collected, they dump it there because they know the car will come for it.
This emerging refuse dump takes up part of the road, along which you'd find the ECG office, the Ghana School of Law, and other important institutions. The traders make it all too clear they are not happy with the situation.
People bring rubbish from other parts of the city and dump it here. The man who is supposed to collect it says we don't always pay him, so he won't come. Some of our leaders use this road. They need to do something about it.
These women add the stench is bad for business. Because of the stench from the rubbish, people do not want to stand here and buy our wares. Car Mensah, the market secretary, sheds no tears for the pavement hawkers.
The vendors are not even supposed to be there. We are all supposed to be inside the market. So when you come out of the market to do your business outside the market and you come to meet such a thing, it's your own risk.
The news team, shortly after that, chanced on a confrontation between the vendors and someone who had come to dump refuse. He explained he is aware a garbage truck would come for the refuse.
When we dump it here, the truck comes to collect it.
But the traders would not allow him and compelled him to return with his trash. The market secretary, Car Mensah, is yet to figure out what can be done to manage the situation.
There is no other thing we can do. There is no other thing. We cannot say they should give us a place for the garbage. Where in this Accra here do you suggest that they should do such a thing? So we are just, accepting it the way it is, but we are just taking very good care of it so that it will not be spreading or being kept there for a longer period. You go and then talk about it, and they will even tell you that there is no way they can put a container there because it's a higher road, a higher street.
With the AMA making sanitation their main focus, it is imperative that they pay attention to Accra's markets, especially as they serve a large population. From the Makola market in Accra, Zarina Mandi for Joy News.